Well, again, thank you. I think we do say it every week, but again, it has been a big week, and we have another fantastic guest joining us tonight. We're joined tonight by Dr. Michel Calvo, who I'm saying Michel, he's also Michael, but given his French background, and you'll hear his lovely French accent, he's happy to go by Michel or Michael. He was born in Tunisia, but trained in Paris and New York, Doctor of International Law, former member of Israel's International Court of Arbitration team. He's an acclaimed lawyer, author, and global expert on international relations, and whose books dissect everything from nuclear arms treaties to Middle East conflicts. Tonight, we're lucky to have him taking us through this critical question about recognizing the state of Palestine, the violations that this brings to international law. We're going to take a deep dive and examine how the Albanese government's plan to recognize the Palestinian state has severe breaches to international law, what that means for Australia, and also what that is going to mean for the world. So please, everyone, my name's Tennille Murray. I am the Community Director here at AJA. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you have any questions, we'll be taking a Q&A after the presentation, but please give a warm welcome to Dr. Michael Calvo.
Thank you. So, we are in a situation which is not nice at all. Because, for example, I am living in Jerusalem, in the north of Jerusalem, outside of the armistice line, what they call the line of demarcation, which was signed in 49 between the Arab states such as Jordan and Israel. Jordan, which conquered this portion of the territory, who was part of the British mandate, who was part of the Jewish national home. And after that, Jordan annexed it to its territory. It was called before Transjordan. And now we call that Judea and Samaria. We continue to call it Judea and Samaria, but other people call it Western Bank. Western Bank, which means up to from the Jordan River to the sea. So you see, there is already something which is not really acceptable in a way, because they are just doing with word a kind of propaganda regarding to whom it belongs. Do you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we hear very well. Thank you, Doctor.
Do you see me?
Yes, very clear.
Because I don't see anyone on my screen. Oh yes, now I see you. So you have to take into account that this portion of land, which is called Judea and Samaria, is contested in one way. So, and Gaza also is contested, because in the Oslo Agreement, it was said we will discuss the whole matter, and if we arrive to a kind of agreement, then we will apply this agreement. It is not said in the Oslo Agreement that there will be a Palestinian state, because there are plenty of possibility to apply the criteria of self-determination in international law. So I am living in North Jerusalem, what they call East Jerusalem, what they call Judea and Samaria on one part, and the Western Bank on the other side. And I don't know what I will be as a resident. Will I be, for the French, for example, a Palestinian resident? Then are the tax treaty between France and Israel apply? Normally not, because the treaty speaks about residents of Israel. And what about the Social Security Convention between France and Israel? And the problem is multiplied by as much citizens of foreign states are living in Jerusalem and in Judea and Samaria. For example, Australians who are living in Judea and Samaria or Jerusalem, North Jerusalem, are going to be resident of the Palestinian state. And this creates a lot of problems because our passport will bear the name of Palestine in the country, about the country, and we will lose probably the advantages of tax conventions and the social security convention. So let's go back to the subject. Let me tell you that by a trick that the Arab states and their allies made, there is, when you see a meeting at the United Nations, you see Palestine. But Palestine, everybody thinks that it is a state. But for the UN, it is not a state. It is an observer state. So how did they arrive to observer state? At the beginning, they accepted to receive a PLO as an observer entity. And then they changed the name of the observer entity from PLO to Palestine. And then they said, oh, it's an observer state. It is the observer state of Palestine. So the status is totally different from a terrorist organization. They transform it into an observer state. Observer states have the right to speak. They are invited by members to speak, such as and so we see that by moving from PLO, they went to observer state of Palestine, and now everyone in any country, when seeing the picture of discussions and the picture of discussions at the UN, they see Palestine, and they all think that it is a state already, but it is not, because to be a state recognized by the UN, you have to fulfill several criteria, and one of the criteria, which is among other criterion. There is the state must be a peace. The entity who wants to be a state must be a peace-loving state. But we see that they are not a peace-loving state, since they are paying. The Palestinian Authority is paying money to the family of terrorists and to the terrorists themselves when they are not dead. So in 2011, there was a committee who convened, and they decided not to consider Palestine as a member of the United Nations. And this was repeated also in 2015. And why? Because the committee members did not agree about the situation of Palestine on the point of international law. And what is the international law which applied? It is customary international law. It is the practice of states for several centuries. And then this customary law was incorporated into a convention, which was on the right and duties of states, which was between America, the United States, and South American countries. And the Convention of Montevideo is on the right and duties of states. It was signed in 1903 1933. Okay, so the basis, the criteria that they have to meet are clearly written in this convention. So the country who participated in the Conference for Statehood of Palestine, which were Great Britain, Canada, Norway, Qatar, Spain, and Turkey, among others, and Australia. These countries know about the content of the Montevideo Convention on the Right and Duties of States. And they are acting, excuse me the term, but I take it in perhaps it's not the exact term, they are brigands. They are brigands, because what they are doing is a clear violation of international law, and they don't care. They enjoy doing that. So when we see the criteria, there is basic element to fulfill. There must be a territory, but the territory, we could say that it exists, but there must be an effective control of a territory by the entity which wants to be considered as a state. There must be a single effective government. There is no single effective government because there is Gaza and the Hamas on one side, and there is the Fatah on the other side. There must be the capacity to enter into legal relationship with other states, with other countries. But this is not possible under the term of the Oslo Agreement. The frontier of the states of this state must be sure and not contested. It is contested because Israel said in the Oslo Agreement that, and it was already written in the armistice line, that every state, I mean Israel and the Palestinian, and will decide the future of the state. They don't abandon their right. And what was given to the Palestinian Authority may change. It means that Israel could take back a portion of a kind of lands which had been attributed to be managed by the Palestinian Authority. So you see, it's when we see this, we understand that there is they do not fulfill the Palestinian criteria applied to the situation have not been fulfilled. I am not alone to say that, of course, because the Montevideo Convention is known by all the professor of international law. Professor Malcolm Shaw of Great Britain has confirmed what I have written in my article. Some other people in London have written the same thing to their Minister of Foreign Affairs. I sent you, I think I sent you the link to what the Baroness Daesh wrote with overlords to the foreign minister. And in addition to that, there is the also agreement which limit the Palestinian jurisdictions, the powers and the responsibilities. In fact, what we see is that France and all the other members of the group of people who want of states who want to recognize the Palestinian states are denying and are changing or are violating the provision of international law. They try to sidestep the Montevideo Convention. According to the interim agreement, which is an international agreement which was signed between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, it was agreed that the Palestinians will not have diplomatic relationship with other countries. So by doing this, in fact, France and its allies are joining force to violate an international agreement. At the same time, they are recognizing a Palestinian state that finance terrorists with the pay-to-slay policy that they adopted. So this is another violation of international law, because it is not a peace-loving state, and they are violating laws to fight terrorism. And as I said before, the Oslo Agreement reads, that nothing in this agreement shall prejudice or preempt the outcome of negotiation of the permanent status. And no party has renounced or waived any of its existing rights. So this is another violation of international law. So you see that with all these things, that we are in a situation where the international law has been or will be infringed. They are doing what they would never dare to do with any other state. They do it with a Jewish state, the only Jewish state. They want to create a 23rd Muslim states, Arab state, on the territory of which has been allocated to the Jews. And as I said before, they are acting like brigands. They want to take land which doesn't belong to them and never has. At the same time, there are additional violations which have been made by France and by England, will be made by France and England. I cannot say by Australia, but France and Great Britain signed the San Remo Accord, San Remo Treaty, and the Sèvres Treaty, and the Lausanne Treaty of the year of 2020 and 23, which deals with the future British mandate for the Jewish national home. The British mandate was adopted by 50 nations, which were members of the League of Nations. Australia did not participate did not sign this treaty. At the time, the situation was different. Only England and the 50 other states and the 48 other states were signed it. So there is also something which is very important that you have to understand. How can we say that Judea and Samaria belongs to the Jewish people? It belongs to the Jewish people because it is on the territory which the territory of the Jewish national home. The maps of the British mandate show that Judea and Samaria, what we call now the Western Bank, is on the map of the future Jewish national home. And we could say that with time, we abandon our right, or the United Nations has decided to say and to consider that we abandoned or we could not conquer this land in 67. You have to remember that this land was conquered before by the Jordanian, and we take it back. So their argument is not valid because at the time of the signing of the charter, UN Charter, the states wrote before an article which is called Article 80 to safeguard the right and interest of the people under the mandates. The mandates of the League of Nations grants right to the people covered by the mandate. The rights cannot be notified. They even apply after the mandate terminates, and we know that the mandate terminated in 49. So the right to the territory designed as the Jewish national home still belongs to the Jewish people. It means that I, as a Jew of French and Italian origin, I have the right to live in this territory. It belongs to me. The same for the Australian Jews, the same for British Jews, or other French Jews. So this is something that almost nobody knows and which exists. We have the right to Judea and Samaria, and we didn't made an acquisition by war of this territory, even though the resolution 242 mentioned that the acquisition of land by war is not acceptable, but we did not acquire by war this territory. It belonged to us. So it was conquered by the Jordanian before. So the fact that they are doing that at the United Nations is an aggravating circumstances. They are doing inside the premises of the United Nations a violation of the Article 80 of the United Nations. So something else that I can add as a joke, I would say, how would France, Spain, and United Kingdom would react if Israel and Micronesia decided to recognize a Muslim state in Picardy, in France, in the first arrondissement of Paris, the first district of Paris, or in places that the French call themselves the lost territories of the French Republic because the police cannot enter because of the Muslim presence, or would recognize Muslim territory in Bradford or Birmingham and convene a conference for that purpose. I will add for you, perhaps you could ask your prime minister if he would be happy if Israel and Micronesia, which always sided with Israel. It's very strange. We have the stronger state, which is behind us, America, and the smaller one, which is Micronesia, every time we need some help. What will how Mr. Albanese, your prime minister, will react if Israel and Micronesia would say that the land belonging to the natives of Australia must be considered as a state? Perhaps you should ask this question to your prime minister. In addition to that, I make the link with something else. You know that the first people or the indigenous people have been recognized the right, some right, in 2007 after 20 years of negotiations. um, the indigenous people have a right to their land and resources. So who are the indigenous people in our area? For sure, the Jewish people are the indigenous people of Gaza, Judea, and Samaria. They have the right to their land, and by denying their right, they are violating international law on this subject. Um, so these are the main points that I mentioned in my article in French and in English on the violation of international law. So perhaps should you, as Jews, ask your representatives to ask questions to the foreign minister and the prime minister of Australia about these violations. But we have to understand that Australia will the government will reply that he is not responsible toward the people of Australia if they are violating the Article 80 of the Charter. So you might get might get an answer that it doesn't concern the Australian people. It's a question of international law, which is and it's a question of states or relationship between states. So this is the situation where we stand. Because in Australia, to have to be bound toward the population, the citizen, you have to incorporate the articles of the treaty, of the UN treaty. And this has not been done in Australia, and in general, you don't do that. In France, we have a different system. The treaties are approved and ratified by the people, that is to say, by the parliament. This is not the case, apparently. This is the case perhaps in Australia, but it has to be incorporated into law. So these are the points that I wanted to share with you today. And now I will have to have questions so that I can answer to your preoccupations.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Calvo. We'll take a very
Thank you.
short 1-minute break while I let everybody know what's coming up next week. So next week, sorry, let me just grab the flyer. It's funny, so earlier, just before everyone joined, we were actually talking about Italy. So Dr. Calvo here was telling me that while he was born in Tunisia, he is originally, sorry, what did you call it? The
Livorno.
Livorno. So
Livorno.
it kind of ties in well. Our guest next week is Dr. Dror Aidar, and he is the former ambassador of Israel in Italy.
Ah,
So he's going to be talking about Europe and the Jews, specifically with the 400% increase in anti-Semitism in Europe since October 7. We've got the former Israeli ambassador of Italy in San Marino. He'll be talking about the situation in Europe and what it's like for the Jews there right now. I also
his
want
name is Edar. His name
Dr. Dror Aidar, yes.
Edar. He's a very nice man. I know him, and a very, very bright ambassador.
Oh, excellent. So if you don't have the plug
So
from us here at
you
HJA, you
will
have it
enjoy.
here.
Yes,
Make
yes,
sure you tune in next week for that.
yes,
And
please.
please do save the date. We are having a very special October 7th memorial, which will be held on October 8th. So our weekly Zoom is every Wednesday, but due to the Chagim on October 8th, we're going to be starting at 8:30 p.m. So please save the date, but also save this special time while it is always 8 p.m. Standard Time. Note that we'll be moving into daylight savings, so 8:30 p.m. on October 8th with a survivor from the Nova Festival, and she is just incredible. So please save that date and make sure you're supporting us coming to that. Oh, there we go. Now we'll move into our question and answer. I can see lots of hands raised here. Let's start with Alan, please.
Thanks, Daniil, and thank you. Michael, the Palestinians don't want it. The Israelis have abandoned the idea of it. So it seems that the only people who want a Palestinian state right now are the United Nations and some leftist governments, including ours. Only Israel creates such high levels of emotion by Western politicians and media outlets. So how do you explain this, and what do you think is driving it?
Is driving whom?
What is driving this obsession with Israel and a Palestinian state?
I can take it. I can give two answers. The one is the way we behave, and the other thing is that the hatred is based on religions, on their teaching that they received. We know what the Gazans' children were not born against the Jews. I mean, a 3-year-old child, a Gazan child, is not born and thinking against the Jews. Yet we thought that the Jews are wrong, are criminals, and this comes after during the school, and we know what is the propaganda in school. We know, everybody knows about this. So this has been developed by Palestinian authorities. The roots are in the Quran. We know what the Quran says about the Jews, and they interpret the Quran sometimes in a different way that someone intelligent would interpret it. And the other things that you can say is that in Europe, for example, they are very happy to accuse the Jews, because the Jews are acting as the same way that they acted against the Jews. France, for example, Ireland, Holland. We have to remember England. We have to remember how they reacted, how they did against the Jews during the last war, World War II. And the teaching is, I mean, the roots of that is the teaching that the Christians received, the Catholic received since 2,000 years, a little less, because at the beginning, the first 100 years, there were Jews among Christians, and they were not anti-Jewish the way that they became. But they became this happened in 340 when they prevented the Jews to be, or the Christian to go in synagogue because they were losing their strength. So on this aspect, this is good for them to see that the Jews are bad, that the Jews commit genocide, that the Jews are criminal of war. They are like the German, they are like them in one way. So then they are breathing fully, and they can say, oh, the Jews are like us. So we don't have to be considered as culprit, or responsible for the past. This is the first point. The second point, why? I mean, we all know, and probably you know by experience, that God intervenes in our life. We know that, and we discover that when we become older and older, when we see our past. We see how God intervenes in our life. And we can see also when we learn history that God intervened in history. Okay, so why did God, in one way, punish us? In one way, we were punished in October 7 in all the wars that we had after 67. We were punished for one reason. God has said to us, "You are going to go back to your land. I am going to bring you back. So conquer the land." It was said too when we enter into Canaan. It is written, and when we see the story which is related in the book of Samuel, we see that God was furious because the Jews did not wanted to compromise with the population, and we did compromise with the Palestinian under the pressure of the European and the Americans, of course, because it was a whole process. So in one way, we can see that God, by helping the American and the European to push us to compromise with the Muslims, in fact, God wanted to test us and to see if we believe in him or not. So we lost more than 36 years. So now we have to rectify the problem, and in my opinion, we have to enter and to go back to the heart of, the Americans are saying the cradle of, to go back to our land and to say that it is our land. And when they say that we are violating international law by this article that I wrote and by the argument that I mentioned, that over Professor Love mentioned, we have to show that they are lying when they say we are violating international law when they are violating international. They are falsifying history. They are falsifying all their arguments just for the sake of considering themselves not being culpable. And at the same time, I must say that behind this recognition of a Palestinian state, there is a will to destroy Israel. And I will explain to you. You can be surprised that suddenly in May 2024, you can be surprised. I read an article on foreign affairs written by someone who came from Australia, Martin Indyk. You probably know Martin Indyk. And he said it's strange that the war will bring peace. And he said we have to recognize a Palestinian state, and this has been decided by Biden and his advisors. And then immediately after this article, I replied to this article in an article which was published on the Getstone Institute. But in his article, Martin gave me the impression that the whole Biden administration indirectly pushed the European states to recognize. And immediately after this article declaring that the Palestinian state must be recognized, several states in Europe have recognized the Palestinian state. So there was a combination and a policy behind that. And our allies that we call the American were not our allies. They were our enemy, and they sided with Qatar and the Muslim Brotherhood. It would be so easy for the American to help the Muslim to destroy Israel. Then the Jews who are living in Israel were expert in computer science, in all sciences, will go to the States. So they will benefit that. Second thing, when they do that, and when the French are doing that, they might say, sit one day or another to the Trump administration. We were following the Biden administration and the orders of the Biden administration. Why do you change your policy? And France is doing that, and the other states are doing that because they have decided to destroy the state of Israel. We know that now. We know that we have been demonized, we have been delegitimized, we have been accused of all the worst things on earth which happened. So if the Muslims will attack us, now they will have the Europeans behind them. So the whole strategy was developed before, a long time ago, by Arafat. The Oslo Agreement were in fact developed by Arafat, and the whole technique of delegitimizing us, demonizing us, to ask for apartheid weeks, to challenge our academics and to say that they are Zionist into quotes. All these kind of things are part of the plan which has been developed a long time ago by the Muslim states, and that had been adopted by the European. It means that once we will be attacked, no one will come to defend us when there will be a Palestinian state. The Palestinians did not dare to join the Hamas. They committed, all the Muslim countries committed an error the Hezbollah committed an error not to attack us at the same time that the Hamas did. There were some time in between. The Iranians did not send their missile at the same time. We were very lucky, and God intervened in this thing. It intervened a long time ago by the beepers. The beepers is something which is miraculous in one sense, and it is fantastic that we could destroy all the missiles which were in Lebanon that were to be sent on our heads. We said at that time before. We said that there were 200,000 missiles. So I mean, if we don't see that God intervened in this, it means that we are blind and we don't want to see things. God intervened in history, and rejoice. We are living a period of history. The Jewish people is living something exceptional. We are going to see very soon how God punish our enemies. I can give you an insight. Biden exit and heal of a cancer. Kamala Harris is back to her home and doesn't have anyone to protect her because before she had some members of Secret Service to protect her. So she is left alone. So we are going to see what will happen to Spain. Spain, the prime minister received some mud when and the king and the queen of Spain received some mud. There were fires. There were fires in Spain. We are going to see what is going to happen to Macron soon. We are going to see what will happen to the Slovenian government who are speaking to us. These people have been committing. They were part of them. Half of them were helping the German to kill the Jews. And the new generation came of leftists, and they are doing the same mistakes than their forefathers. they are repeating the things. We can see one thing: when the people who were in the East European countries, the East Europeans right now are such as Hungary and Poland are not against Israel. They understood what they did wrong in one way, and the Soviet were their punition, their sanction. We see that the Norwegian they were not under the yoke of the Soviet Union. Even this, when we see the country which has been invaded by the Soviet Union, all these countries collaborated and gave their Jews voluntarily to the German, even they were not asked. So we see that there was an intervention of Jews, of God to punish them. So we have to wait and open our eyes and see what will happen soon to Macron, for example, or to Albanese, or to once they will recognize a Palestinian state.
Yes. Okay, we might go to our next question from Ari, if you'd like to unmute, please.
Okay, so I've got two questions. My first question is, in 1922, when the boundaries were established at San Remo, and then when Israel declared statehood and the Arabs rejected the partition plan, why has Israel never challenged the boundaries using uti possidetis juris? My second question is, you've discussed the Montevideo agreements and you've highlighted the breaches by these countries, but currently there's 147 states that have recognized a Palestinian state, with another half a dozen to do so. Again, why isn't it being challenged?
There are 2 points. Two questions, 2 points. The first one regarding the San Remo Accord. We could not impose anything. I mean, when in 48 we could only defend ourselves. We were 600,000 people in Israel, and we had 1% of the population who died of war. 6,000 people died at that time. All the wars that we had were a kind of miracle, were won by miracle. So when you have states like Soviet Union at the time, the US at the time, and you are let's say 2 million people or 3 million people, what can you do? I mean, you can always say, yes, it's my land and under international law. So they don't care. They don't care. Okay.
But these were agreements that were signed under the League of Nations and then
Yes.
were forwarded to the United Nations. And we're talking about many decades of the ability to challenge those legalities. And I don't understand why they've never been challenged.
Oh, I am sure that people in the ministry, in the Israeli Ministry of Finance, tried to challenge or said to the minister, please challenge them. But what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything because they were all against us. Look at the UN, and this is the second question. At the UN, so many states which declare okay. From these states, you have 57 states which are member of the Islamic Cooperation, Islamic Conference organization, which is led by Saudi Arabia. And the article regarding the aim of this organization is to re-establish the right of the Palestinian people on their land. So you have already 57 people, 57 nations who will vote for and will recognize a Palestinian state and will take resolutions against Israel. So you are going to say, why don't we raise and say, oh, the resolution are not, we challenge them, they are against the law. But the resolution are not making the law, first, international law. And second, they are just recommendations. They are not orders. They have no legal value. It's like a letter from my mother. This expression was used by Professor Rostov when he was speaking about a letter which has been written by the Soviet government to the U.S. government regarding part of the treaty. In addition to the treaty, which is called the SALT Treaty, Strategic Arm Limitation Treaty. So it doesn't have any, they do not have any value. But when you read the newspapers, when you see your TV, you say that Israel has been condemned by the General Assembly of the United Nations because it violated international law. So people are unbelieving, but they did it, even though they are not able to state the law or to give such a ruling. And at the same time, they don't know that it's only a recommendation which has no legal value. Only decision of the UN Security Council adopted because they are threatening peace in the world are binding states.
Thank you, Doctor.
The other resolutions are not binding states.
Catherine, would you like to unmute? Okay, I'm not sure, Catherine. Is there any more? Jeff, would you like to unmute?
Shalom. Tell me, Doctor, what is the gross state domestic product of Palestine, Philistines, Gaza, and anything else in between? Because it seems to me any incipient nation state should be able to defend itself, or at least feed itself. And the only thing that they manufacture is plastic tube bazookas and concrete tunnels. Isn't it a necessity for a nation state that would want to be called a nation state to be able to feed its own people other than rely on the donations of foreign entities like the European Union? Give us a quick answer, please.
You mean, if I understand your questions, your first questions, are we compelled? I don't hear you. I do not hear you.
I think he was saying that a state should be able to feed itself, and some state of Palestine will never be able to do that. So how do they justify statehood?
Oh, we can always justify statehood. Biafra, for example, you remember the Biafra crisis, where they decided to be recognized as a state. They were dying of hunger.
Okay,
Some states recognize Biafra.
Let's try on. Would you like to unmute?
Hello there. So my question is today, since Australia law and other countries has recognized Hamas as a terrorist organization, is it fair to label Gaza as a terrorist state since it's actually run by terrorists, and then place sanctions on them like we do with other terrorist states? Like, for example, Afghanistan, which is currently being run by the Taliban.
If I understand well, I didn't understand exactly what you said regarding
The question relates to the
Gaza.
use of the law. If we claim that Gaza is a terrorist state and we list them as the entire state as a terrorist state, can we place sanctions on them the same way that we would place Afghanistan as a terrorist state?
Of course, but they are imperiling the world order. But for that, you have to have a majority. You have to have the Security Council member who will all accept to take such a decision. If we didn't have the American to protect us, that's a long time that we will be buried.
Thank you, Doctor. We'll go to our final question here from Christopher, please.
Hi, thanks very much for your time
Right.
tonight. I hope you can hear me okay. So, assuming that, and I read your article in JNS that you co-authored, which is a really nice summary I thought of your talk tonight. Assuming all that's correct and that world leaders like Albanese and Macron are well aware that any legitimization through recognition of a Palestinian state would be in contravention of international law, then what is their fundamental point? Is it merely a political game, or do they have the hubris to believe that they can actually bring this about? What's your opinion?
Your last question was if they
With the Australian
repeat.
political, if recognizing a Palestinian state breaches international law, do political leaders like Albanese, our Prime Minister, are they doing it for their own hubris? Or in your opinion, do they think their actions really will create a Palestinian state?
Yes, probably because they will after that they will help the Palestinians to free themselves. They might decide to for example, to save the Palestinian people and to send. We have something very strange now. Hello.
Yes, we have.
Hello.
Yes, we've got you.
There was someone in Norway or in
In
Finland.
space. Yes, we did ask her to unmute earlier, but it was a bit of a delay.
Okay, so of course he has perhaps in his mind that Israel will be destroyed, because as I said before, if you recognize a state, then you are compelled in one way to help it and to help his population, and eventually to send your army to defend the state, and they want to take sanctions. The Europeans, when they were at the United Nations, they said, we are going to take sanctions against Israel because it doesn't recognize a Palestinian state. So if it takes sanctions, we begin the sanctions, financial sanctions, then we prevent ministers, we say that the ministers are inciting against the Palestinians. So we prevent them to come and in Europe. This was done recently for Ben-Gvir and Smotrich. They are going to target Jews who defended themselves in Judea and Samaria, and they are going to say that they are terrorists. So all this can be, built up. And they could eventually decide to send armaments to the Palestinians. And we know that the Iranians have sent armaments, and we know something else, but you don't know. You don't know something else. Is that in 2000, Jacques Chirac, the French president, sent explosives to the Palestinian Authority, explosive, and this was mentioned recently 2 times in different newspapers by someone who was responsible of the office taking actions abroad, it's part, someone who was part of the French secret service in France. His name is Martinet. So if you go to and you write Martinet on Google and Arafat and explosive, you will find out that France helped send explosive in 2000 to Arafat, and suddenly France was spared of any terrorist attack. It doesn't mean that they did it. I mean, they signed an agreement, but they formed people also to manipulate these explosives. And you know that it was the beginning of Intifada. So you see, the states, by recognizing other states, can do what states who are not recognizing other states help terrorists. So we see that it will be easier for them to do that.
Thank you, Doctor. We are out of time, but before we sign off for tonight, I'd like you showed me your book earlier. Would you mind to do a quick plug? There we go. The Middle East and World War III, Why No Peace by Dr. Michelle A. Calvo. That is available on Amazon. And the foreword is by a very good friend to AJA, Richard Kemp, who we brought out to Australia just last year. He's one of our very close friends here at AJA. So that is available. You can look it up on Google, Amazon, and anywhere else.
No, Amazon, I think, and the other, I don't know. There are several other things, several other sellers. But Richard Kemp is a very, very bright man, very bright. I didn't know him when I asked him, and he said to me, "Why don't you send me? I will read it, and I will tell you if I agree or not." And he agreed.
Wow, wow.
We became friends. But this book has been published in 2017, at the end of 17. And what is interesting here in this book is that you see here, there are QR codes. So with your telephone number, you can, and your QR code, you can see, for example, the full text statement and testimony of Tom Malikovsky regarding my genocidal attacks against Christians and other religious minorities in Syria. And we have plenty of that, plenty of this. You have also videos, access to videos of Faisal Husseini, for example, who said that the Oslo Agreement were a Trojan horse. You have future suicide bombers who say that what they are feeling when they are told that they are going to meet in the afterworld 70, I don't know if 70 or 72 virgins.
Wonderful. So that book is available on Amazon. The easiest way to find it, you can Google Michael A. Calvo, and it's the first link that comes up. I will post that up and we'll put it in when we put the YouTube recording up.
Can I add something else?
Yes.
What I think will be the most interesting book will be my next one, if it is published, of course, because of the subject. It is The Exile of the Jewish People. 2 points: sanctions or mission. The mission of the Jews in exile and after their return in their land.
Excellent. We look forward to reading a copy of that when it comes out. Everybody, thank you very much for joining us this evening. We are out of time, but really please give a big thank you to Dr. Michelle Calvo. Thank you to Lynn Cohen-Salal, who organized this and brought Dr. Calvo to our attention, a good friend of AJA and to us. But really, thank you for your insights, for your expertise. Thank you for taking the time to share that with us. We really wish you all the best in Jerusalem. Our hearts have been broken all week with the news we have heard this week. So to you and to everyone in Israel, we're sending you our love and the best for Israel and our people. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening, everyone.